our lives, because finances ends up being a big stress. We live in an era that feels so topsy-turvy. How's AI going to play in housing market, all these different things, inflation, how do all these different things sort of play in, and more importantly, how do we sort of find a spiritual perspective on it? Because the spiritual perspective is one that can definitely definitely help us with finding more peace than we might otherwise find. So I want to start with this. It was years ago, I remember listening to a sermon by Richard Rohr, and he was talking about the Ten Commandments, and he said the one Ten Commandment that gets the least play is the one that says, do not covet. We would use probably more modern language, like don't envy other people, don't envy what they have, don't envy this, don't envy that. Just don't envy. And it's an interesting perspective, because here's a question for you. What is probably the greatest financial mistake we can make? And when we put that out there, if you went to see a financial advisor, you'd say, well, you have too much in stocks, too much in bonds. You'd have some sort of formula, or she would have some sort of formula, and say, these are the big mistakes you can make money-wise. And all those things from a practical level are really true. However, I think it's worthwhile to consider that maybe the biggest mistake we can make with our resources is envy. If we have what we have and we're continually in a place of envying what other people have, it's just the story's not going to end well. In life, so much, we can choose sort of a couple of approaches to these things. One is, and it's with anything with life, really. One is we can look to maximize, and maximize pleasure, maximize prestige, maximize possessions. Like everything is about maxing. And that kind of approach would say, when we have resources, what's our job? Our job is to maximize them. So if we could get 1% more interest on doing this versus doing that, that's what we should do. And there's a different approach. And it's a different approach that says, no, it's really about satisfaction. Not maximizing, it's about finding satisfaction. And that part just says, hey, I have enough. I have enough for today. And if I don't, I'm going to figure out a way to get to that point of having enough. I think that is a much healthier way, a much more spiritual way of coming to the point of with resources where we actually have some peace. Because envy will always be looking for the max, and envy will always be looking for more. Envy is one of those few things in life that really never gets satiated. If we sort of stoke the fires of envy, there'll never be a time where we feel satiated at all, because its whole thing is wanting what it doesn't have and wanting a little bit more. But that whole idea of just being satisfied and just it's enough, really can make a difference. I remember, years and years ago, watching a sermon by Andy Stanley at North Point Church down in Georgia, and he was talking about garages. This is how he got the point across, and it was really clever, I thought. He said, is your house have a garage? And not everybody does, but he said, if you do, you have a house for your car, and you are in like the 0.05% of the entire population of the world. And that was the perspective we wanted people to take, is, look, we are for the most part a very resourced country. And if we continue to chase more, it's going to get us into trouble. If we continue to just allow ourselves ever to settle into satisfaction, it's enough. It's a very, very different game. And that's why, friends, drawing full circle here with the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments, when it says thou shalt not covet, you can look at that one of two ways. There's that kind of command should bookend our lives. And what do I mean by that? Well, we start out by saying, just don't covet. Really work at not envying other people. Really work at gratitude and service where you are. Always the two answers. Be grateful. How can you serve? There you go. That's what our focus of life is. And that's sort of the beginning of the journey. And then by the end of the journey, if we've practiced not envying and we keep on practicing gratitude, service, what we end up with at the other end is this beautiful place where, guess what? We won't covet. Like, it won't even occur to us to be envious of another person. We may see something we like that they have, and we may desire that, but it's not coming from envy. It's just coming from, that's a cool thing. That'd be nice to have. Very different. So friends, if you find yourself sort of like all up in arms around money, which I get, and it can happen, and we can have times in our life that feel particularly pinched, I think, again, we can all get it. And please just remember, that the best decision you can make is not to come from envy. Instead, to really look at gratitude and service. Instead, to really look at just the simple beauty of satisfaction and enough. That's the goal. Satisfaction and enough. I hope that makes sense, dear friends. And what we're going to do now is we're going to shift gears as we do here at New Church Live. We're going to do a little prayer, a little blessing. Then we're going to say hi to our friends on Facebook. So first off, the prayer bell. So take a little breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a quick little cheery hello to folks who might have joined us. And we can say hello to everyone here. Yeah, Sherry, that's such a good point. Sherry writes, when one gets older, the idea turns to getting rid of stuff. And yeah, like the stuff's in quotes because you can use other words there. Sherry, it's so true. Like, just the whole idea of being a minimalist is very appealing the older one gets. That is for sure. And Linda, good morning to you. I hope you're doing well, my friend. And let's flip on over to here. And say a little hello to folks over here on our other Facebook page. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. All right, dear friends. Well, listen, God bless. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you again tomorrow on 10 Minutes of Morning Calm. Take care. Bye-bye.